Hey everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to the Storytime channel. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. Report me to my manager? I'll get you shipped back home. After I graduated college, I went to work for a Japanese-owned company which had operations in California. It wasn't my first choice of a job, but jobs for college grads were few and far between at the time, so I took it and hoped for the best. It was a very difficult culture as all of the managers were Japanese nationals who had been sent over on 3-year assignments. It was a pretty prestigious assignment for the Japanese nationals as they all had large houses, company cars, and expense accounts where they could have a much nicer lifestyle than the typical high-rise subway commute they were used to in Japan. The next step for them was to succeed in California and get promoted to the North American headquarters in New York, which was highly desired by all of them because it meant another 4 years in the US with the great perks they were getting. A lot of them, including my boss, were pretty cool personally, but if there was any workplace or customer issues, your managers wouldn't stand up for you and fight for your side of an issue, so all of the Americans working there felt pretty mistreated. One of the phrases we heard more than once from our managers was that the nail that sticks up gets hammered down quickly. I never told them that I had taken 2 semesters of Japanese in college, so I understood probably every 5th word they were saying initially, but that increased to understanding every 3rd word within a few months. I never gave them any hints that I understood anything they were saying, but it helped me and my American colleagues figure out what was actually happening, as after work over beers I would translate some of the stuff the Japanese managers would say to each other in their cubicles, wrongly assuming that the Americans around them wouldn't understand a word they were saying. Since I wasn't fluent, I never put my language skills on my resume, but 2 semesters of college Japanese turned out to be very helpful. Overall, it was a very dysfunctional culture and every American clocked out at 5 p.m. sharp. I put my time in learning as much as I could, then started chopping my resume out to other companies in hopes of moving on as quickly as possible. I started getting some callbacks and would go on interviews whenever I could. One of those callbacks looked pretty promising, so I was hoping any day to get the news that I was going to quit the job that I was really starting to dread. It had gotten to the point where I expected the phone to ring any day with the confirmation that I was going to be hired, so I was pretty anxious for the phone to ring with good news. In the meantime, there was a girl my age who worked in another division whose manager was known as the biggest tickhead. We'll call him Tickhead here. In the company, he was widely reviled even by the Japanese, and it was well known that he wanted a promotion to New York as he was nearing the end of his run in California. The rumor was that he was getting promoted to New York and he was acting pretty smug, like he had it in the bag. He'd even been going back to New York for long weekends with his wife to look at a place to live. The staff turnover in his group was high though, and everyone knew he was a problem, but nobody in power would do anything about it. The girl that I knew decided to move with her boyfriend somewhere back in the Midwest and gave 2 weeks notice. On her last day, they had a going away party for her. We were all invited to attend her party, which involved having some cake, some quick speeches, and a social hour for people to say goodbyes. Once that was over, since we'd become friends, I lingered over in their division area for an extra few minutes and swapped some contact information with the girl so that we could stay in touch. When I got back to my desk, my manager had an upset expression on his face and he called me and his manager into a conference room. We sat down and they told me that Tickhead had just lodged a formal complaint against me for interfering with the operation of his group. I explained that I was just saying goodbye to the girl who was leaving and spent 5 extra minutes getting her new contact information. They waved off my excuse and told me I was going to be formally written up and I would have to sign the HR form stating that I had violated the workplace rules and take some training classes to curb my poor behavior. I was pretty upset that they hadn't told Tickhead off, but I remembered they were never fighting for their employees, so it wasn't a surprise. When I got back to my desk 5 minutes later, there was a message on my work phone from the HR department of the firm I had interviewed with asking me to call them back as soon as possible. I called them back and got the good news on the job offer. I told them I would start in 2 weeks as soon as I signed the offer. They sent it over and 10 minutes later, I had a new job. This new job created leverage, allowing me to create a situation at the company I was leaving, so I took it. I printed out a resignation letter and printed it. Then I called my manager and his manager back into the conference room that we had left 20 minutes before and handed them my resignation letter. I told them that I was quitting immediately because of the loss of face that they had created for me at the company, but that I also wanted to file a complaint against Tickhead for verbal and emotional abuse in the workplace. My managers went into a huge panic mode as this was unheard of in their culture and they literally had no idea how to react. They begged me to stay and told me they would bury Tickhead's complaint against me and give me a raise. I told them since it was only 2 p.m. on a Friday that they should escalate the matter immediately to HR and the office manager in charge of the entire operation. I packed up my desk after the meeting, but within an hour, all of us were sitting in the conference room where the Japanese managers were speaking back and forth in Japanese, while I sat there next to the HR representative, an American woman who didn't speak any Japanese. As usual, I didn't understand all of what they were saying, but the context was pretty easy to see in that Tickhead was pumping up his accusations against me to make it look like I had actually done something wrong other than get an address from an employee who was leaving that day. He basically said that I trash-talked him in front of his group and that I had to be slapped down for it. I finally interrupted, and in the best Japanese I could muster, I explained that Tickhead was a liar and that he was the most hated manager in California and that he should be sent back to Japan immediately before every American at the company quit working there. They all stared at me in astonishment, as they had no idea that I could understand or speak any Japanese at all. The area manager immediately started apologizing to me and started barking at Tickhead, but he was speaking so fast I didn't catch a word. I told them the apology was too late, but that one thing they should learn from the situation was that Tickhead was a liar, was reviled, and that promoting him to New York would be a big mistake. With that, I literally got up from my chair, walked out the door, grabbed the box from my desk, and left the office. The Americans applauded me as I walked out. I took 2 weeks of vacation between jobs, then settled into my new job. A month later, I reached out to my best friend at my old company to catch up. As I'd hoped, the manner in which I had quit, coupled with the fact that the Japanese suddenly realized it was possible for an American to understand them, had changed things for the better. The biggest news was that all of the Americans had been interviewed about the problems in the office and everyone pointed their finger at Tickhead. As a result, Tickhead had been denied the promotion to New York and was even being sent home early. One of the Japanese managers took my old group out for beers one night once everything had been resolved and told them that Tickhead would be given a window office in Tokyo with no responsibilities for the rest of his life, which is like being in a corporate prison for 8 hours a day for those losers. They are called window watchers, as they literally do nothing but collect a salary for sitting in their offices 8 hours a day. So apparently in Japan, a window watcher is a person that's been given a menial job, and the idea is that you would surf the web, you would read a book, you'd play video games or whatever, and then you would have to report your activities of the day to your superiors on a daily basis. So the idea is that you would feel all super unproductive or something and then quit on your own, but in America, that would be praised as the best job in the world. It would never work here. Don't bully the teacher's pet, they will bite back. Since I was born, I was the target of abuse from my fellow peers. This story takes place back in grade school. It was so bad I kept to myself and stuck by the teachers in attempts so the bullies would not approach me. But it would not work most days because they still persisted to bully me, often calling me names and making fun of how I acted due to my nature of trying to follow the rules and keep to myself. Teacher's pet was my name, and it was bestowed by my own personal Hades, which was a boy we will call Isaac, because I can't remember his name due to this being back so long ago. Anyway, due to the nature of life being a cruel mistress, he sat next to me. Well, I had enough one day and saw an opportunity to get my revenge on him. We were practicing our writing in class, and a big point they stressed was to remember the period. So much to the point they will mark the sentence you copy as wrong if a period is not present. We had to grade one another's papers, and him being next to me made it obvious we had to swap papers. So I started to erase his periods. He got zeros on all these papers and frustrated the teachers. He did catch on eventually and went to the teachers, who brushed him off as he was known for being a bully. Great teachers, right? He was so mad he started to erase my periods, and as soon as he did, I called the teacher over and showed them. You see, I had a habit of pressing down hard on the paper to write, and it is still a habit that appears occasionally. But the paper's indent and fresh eraser smudge left proof he tried to do it to me, and the teacher was upset, getting him in trouble and me free with my petty little revenge. I think it serves the bully right. If you were getting bullied by these people, what would you try to do? Let me know in the comment section down below. I like to turn off my sister's PS4 mid-game because she did it to me. Okay, here's some background. My sister is mental. She gets angry over little things, and if she lags in a game, she gets really pissy with me and my brothers. Okay, on with the story. One day, I'm playing a ranked game of Rainbow Six Siege, and it's 1v4 and my team's losing, so I needed to win so we would tie. But my sister was playing Fortnite and she was lagging. She died and got angry and came into my room and turned off my Xbox screaming, "Stop playing your Xbox, I'm lagging." She ran back to her room, and I'm just shocked and pissed. I would wait until she's in the final circle of Fortnite or anytime she's in a battle, and I would walk in, turn off her PS4, and in a really childish voice say, "Stop playing, I'm lagging." And I would walk off, and she would just scream and lie to our mom and say I'm being annoying and turning her PS4 off for no reason. It sucks to have the console turned off on either situation, either sibling, but I kinda feel for the parents because they gotta deal with the whole situation too from a overarching standpoint. Cheat on my favorite sport, good luck getting disqualified. So this happened last year. To set the stage, I play junior golf and we have tournaments all across Ontario. These tournaments are 2 days in the junior tour and 1 day in the tour for little kids. Last year we had a 2-day tournament where I played with the cheater both days. The first day I was pretty chill and thought that I couldn't do much about it since the other guy we were playing with told me to let it go. Well, the second day he cheated even more, moving his ball to get a better lie, telling us the wrong scores when there were parents watching, and making noises to distract us. The second day, however, the third person in our group was pretty pissed at what this guy was doing, and at the end of the round, told me to do something about it since I was writing his score. So I went to the rules official and told him everything this guy did, and he went to have a talk with him, the parents, and the third guy, of whom the third guy and parents agreed with what I said. In the end, the official disqualified the guy and his mother kept staring daggers at me while the cheater was crying. Probably because it cost $180 to play in these tournaments, and since it was 2 days and far from their home, they had to book a hotel for the night. So they essentially spent $350 only to see him get disqualified. Moral of the story, don't be a cheating little poop. It comes with a price. They can be upset all they want. If you're going to a tournament and you're going to try and cheat through multiple days of the events or just any day of the event, I think you're fully aware that there's a good chance you can get disqualified and have it all taken away from you. Point out that I need to mow? Not gonna happen. So my yard is fenced in. A couple years ago, my much older, 70s, neighbor started complaining that I didn't mow the side of the fence that faced his property. I explained to him that that side of the fence was mostly ditch and very wet. This made it difficult to mow with my push mower. Now, I normally mow the other side when it is dry, but guess what happens every time he pipes up about where I need to mow? Not freaking happening. Now you can look at the grass grow until you decide to mind your own business about my property. I'm feeling what OP's feeling because although it might be unsightly, it's not the neighbor's responsibility to dictate whether or not they take care of their yard a certain way. As long as they're not breaking any jurisdiction, they're free to do whatever they want with their own property. And with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today. So what I want to know is which of these stories that I've read for you today are your personal favorite and why? Let me know in the comments section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.